Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWIT.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode is brought to you by Lynda.com. Learn what you want, when you want, with access to over 2,000 high-quality online courses, all for one low monthly price. To try it free for 7 days, visit lynda.com/knowhow. That's LYNDA.com/knowhow. There are a lot of people who have been asking about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, so I thought we should have a know-it-all to tell you all the news about the crypto. If you've been keeping your ear to the internet, you've probably heard the term cryptocurrency, but you may not know exactly what it means. Let me break it down for you. The cryptocurrency you've probably heard about is Bitcoin. It's the most popular and it is the one with the highest value. I believe at some point the value hit something like $1,500. It was the very first, 2009, and it was popular because a lot of people got into it and they poured their resources into it, and that's really what determines the value of a cryptocurrency. But how does it work? Well, quite simply, a cryptocurrency has a few commonalities, no matter what cryptocurrency you're talking about. The first is that it's decentralized, as opposed to a fiat currency, which has a government backing it, some sort of entity that controls it. There is no one who controls a cryptocurrency. It's designed to be that way. You own your cryptocurrency, you get to do what you want to do with your cryptocurrency, and there is no central server that keeps tabs of how much you have or what you're doing with it. Again, that's kind of alluring. The second commonality is that it is encrypted. Now, I'm not talking about adding a layer of encryption on top of the data. I mean, it's actually baked in to the digital DNA of every cryptocurrency. The currency units themselves, the transactions, everything you do with a piece of cryptocurrency is encrypted. And it's designed to be that way so that, well, you can get a bit of your privacy back. Now, going beyond that, the cryptocurrencies diverge. There's a few dozen of them right now, but they all more or less work the same way. They start with what's called a blockchain. You're going to hear about this if you ever want to mine a cryptocurrency rather than just purchasing it and trading it. Now, when we mine for cryptocurrencies, what it means is that we're using the power of a computer or a specialized device to get that chain of letters and numbers that will prove that we have unlocked a block. Now, that proof will go to a server and it will reward us with the value of that block, whatever it may be. Now, that value will differ from currency to currency because there are certain rules. These currencies all state at the beginning, before anyone starts mining, exactly how many mining units there are going to be. For example, for Bitcoin, there's only 21 million Bitcoins. Ever. You can't print more, you can't change the rules, you can't say, no, we want to double it. There will only be 21 million for all times. Now, you can divide that almost infinitely. You could have a section, a fraction, a tiny piece of a Bitcoin, and it will be worth whatever that fraction is. Now, other cryptocurrencies, like for example, Litecoin has 84 million and Dogecoin has 100 billion. Well, they'll play with the level of encryption and they'll play with the reward and they'll play with the total number of units in order to entice people to mine their currency because, again, that establishes the value. Now, let's take a look at one other thing, and that's the mining aspect, because I think that's probably the one you've heard about. People turning on their laptops and their desktops and priming for hours to find the proof that they should be rewarded with that blockchain. Well, in the early days, you could mine for Bitcoin. In fact, I mined for Bitcoin with a laptop not unlike this way back in the day, and I got, I think, the first one within about 12 minutes or so. Not bad. But if I were to do that today, it would be priming for years and years and years and would probably still never get me a Bitcoin. You see, that's another thing that is common in many of these cryptocurrencies, and that is that it gets progressively more difficult to unlock each successive block in the chain. That's on purpose. It rewards people who got in early. But it also means that you can no longer use a computer like this, a general purpose computer, to mine something like a Bitcoin, which is based on SHA-256. Instead, you need to use specialized ASICs, these pieces of silicon that just crunch numbers in order to do it. And even then, the return rate has greatly decreased. Now, what we have also seen is the rise of other altcoins, alt-currencies, cryptocurrencies, something like Litecoin or Dogecoin, which are not based on SHA, but which are based on script. Now, script, it was designed specifically to resist the attempts to make ASICs to mine them. It's a slightly different type of hashing algorithm because it requires memory in order to find that chain of letters and numbers that will unlock it. That means that you can't make a customized ASIC, but rather you have to use some of these monster GPUs. Now, it is a fun world, but there are all sorts of reasons that you should be wary before you get involved in cryptocurrency. What I would suggest is you drop by some of the websites for Dogecoin and Bitcoin and Litecoin and just read up from the user experiences to find out if it's something that you want to do with your time. But until then, happy mining. Happy mining indeed. Now, I didn't just want to give you the theoretical, I actually want to show you how you could use your setup to go ahead and get some Dogecoin. Oh, now let's be really clear. First of all, the reason why I'm not showing you Bitcoin or Litecoin is because the difficulty on those currencies is already too high. It would take forever for you to mine them with the rig you have, unless you have a custom gear rig. Now, we're going to show you how to make that later on, but I wanted to give you something that was a bit of fun. Another disclaimer. This is an entirely speculative currency. Don't expect to make any money. In fact, we're looking at it here in the TWIT Brickhouse as something that's kind of fun. It's a competition to see how many Doge each of us can mine, and we've been building rigs in order to mine it the quickest. At some point, the currency could be worth something because there's nothing that separates Dogecoin from Bitcoin or Litecoin. It is an actual cryptocurrency, but keep in mind that you're probably not going to strike it rich, and if you do, you should probably pay Brian and Snubs and myself. All right, let's get to the learning. Really quickly, you're going to need two sets of downloads from the internet. The first one is from the Dogecoin website. Brian, if you could switch over to my laptop right now, just go to dogecoin.com, and right here, it will allow you to pick your operating system, be it Windows or OS X or a browser. Please don't use a browser. Please use either Windows or OS X. And when you do that, it will let you download a wallet. Now, this is what a wallet does. It looks something like this. This is a Dogecoin wallet, a brand spanking new Dogecoin wallet. What a Dogecoin wallet does is exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to keep your Dogecoins. When you get rewarded, either out of a pool or a solo mine with some of these units, those strings that identify it, that show that it belongs to you, will be kept inside this wallet. This wallet will also let you do transactions, either receiving them from people if they're paying you off, or to transact it to somebody else. Let's say I wanted to send Brian 100,000 Doge. This is where I would do it. But the one that you want to do at the first is much receive. If you click this, you'll see that you have these addresses. These addresses are unique to you. They only exist on this computer. They only exist in this particular installation. This is important because you may have heard that Dogecoin was hacked. Dogecoin was not hacked. What was hacked was Doge Wallet, which is an online wallet for coins. Please don't ever put your coins online because they'll get stolen. That's what happens. Once you have this unique address, you can go ahead and join a pool. Now, the reason why we want to join a pool is because, let's go back to the difficulty of mining again. If you try to do it by yourself, especially for these cryptocurrencies that have been established, it will take you forever. It's just too long of a process now to really be practical, and well, just don't do it. You want to join a pool because what that does is it splits off the risk. When you're mining by yourself, there's a chance that you could get a huge payout, millions and millions of Dogecoin at the very beginning, but it's far more likely that you'll go for years without ever getting anything. This is the pool that many people in the TWIT Brickhouse have joined. This is the Doge House. Now, what makes this a good pool to join is that they're always up. You want a pool that has a really good uptime and that has a lot of workers. And actually, if I go to my
dashboard here, it shows you that right now they've got 6,000 workers who are currently mining. It shows that my hash rate is about 489, and it shows that our overall hash rate is 3.26 gigahashes. The higher that hash rate, the more possibility that that pool will stumble upon blocks. And then those blocks get divided to people depending on how many resources they've put into the pool. Now, okay, this is cool to look at, but we don't need this. What we need is this right here. If I go to my workers, it shows me how many computers or how many accounts I currently have active. The one at the top is my personal computer. That's the one that does all my video producing. It has a decent graphics card, so it's producing at 387 kilohash a second. Now, I want to create a new worker for every computer I'm using, just so I know exactly how much they're producing. And that process is very easy. I could say know-how. My worker is KH1. And my password is KH1. Actually, not, yeah. Boom. What I've just done is I've created a brand new worker that's called Padre SJ period KH1 with a password of KH1. Now, the reason why I feel comfortable giving you the password is because the only thing you could do with that, if you wanted to mess with me, is you could put one of your workers and set it to give me Dogecoin. So please do that, Padre.KH1, password KH1. All right, now we've got that. We've got our wallet set up, we've got our pool set up, we've got our worker set up. Let's go mining. If you cut back out to the wide shot, Brian, this is a no-name humdrum system. This is pretty much what most of you are going to find on your desktop if you're not a gamer, if you're not an elite video editor. Probably decent specs. This one has 8 gigabytes of memory. It has a small hard drive, not too big of a power supply, has a middling video card. But the video card here is actually not good enough to mine Bitcoin. So what we're going to do is show you the lowest common denominator right here. This is the second download you need. You need to get CG Miner. But this is CG Miner. It's a Litecoin miner that's made for Script. As I explained in the theoretical section, Script is different than Bitcoin, SHA-256, because it specifically requires a lot of memory. It's more resistant to ASICs. Because I don't have a fancy GPU on this, I'm going to have to mine, if you could zoom in here, I'm going to have to mine with the CPU instead. Now, this looks a little daunting, but what you want to do is you want to go to the minewithcpu.bat. We're going to go ahead and edit that file. And now if you look at the string, which I've already pre-coded for a different wallet, this is just the command to go ahead and tell the CPU to mine, to send it to the pool at dogehouse.org at port 3333 at the account knowhow.kh1 and the password KH1. Very, very simple. When I click this, it's going to start hashing. It's looking for there we go. It just talked to the pool. It got the hash that it needs to work on, and it's going ahead and started to hash. Now, if you look, the hash rate is pitifully low. This is crazy, crazy. But this is pretty much what you're going to get. If you're using CPU, look for a hash rate between 7 and 21. It really doesn't matter how fast you think your CPU is. CPUs are just not that good at hashing. But this is what you can get. I mean, this will run on every notebook. This will run on every desktop. This will run on pretty much anything that's running Windows or OS X or even Linux for you elite Linux ninjas. What we're doing now is this is contributing to the Dogecoin pool that I've already created on dogehouse.org. The cool thing about this is I could, say, run this very lightweight program on all the computers here at TWIT, and they would all be pumping Doge into my wallet. So rich, very Padre. Wow. Now, this is just the beginning. The reason why we started you off with this is because I want you, before the next episode, to be able to go back to your computer, on your gaming machine, in your spare time, whenever you're not using, and go ahead and start up the CPU miner. Get used to it because, believe it or not, that command line is going to be more important than anything else you do. What we'll be explaining in the next episode of Know How when we go on to upgrading your computer to be able to do much faster mining. Remember, the one I have at home has, 387 kilohash versus 5 kilohash for this. We're going to show you what you tweak in order to get the most out of your system. Now, let's get over to Dogecoin mining. We generated a lot of buzz with our episode last week when we talked about simple crypto mining. Here's the problem. The episode that we did was all about mining with the CPU. And we know that that doesn't get you a whole lot. In fact, Brian, if you show the CPU on this machine right now, this is a pretty decent machine. This is what I use for video editing. I'm getting a total of, what, 4, 8, about 12 kilohash a second. That's not a whole lot. In fact, our other machine has been mining the entire week, and that has allowed us to get, let's see, what was that? A grand total of 2,774 Dogecoins. That's Brian, what's the exchange rate on that?
Is it 0.00037?
Yeah, so let's see, let's do that math. 0.0037, 2,000 coins will, yeah, that definitely doesn't pay for the electricity that went into mining those coins. Now, the problem is that it's only using the CPU of the computer, and using only the CPU, well, that's not really efficient. What we need to do is we need to upgrade our machine in order to make your Doge a much better experience. So I'm going to clear up some space here to show you that machine and then show you what we're going to do to make it a little bit better for your Dogecoin mining. Now let me go off screen here while I pull up my handy dandy set of computer whoop arse. This is what your machine may look like if, well, you're just sort of a standard computer user. This is an old Dell, if you can go to the overhead shot. This has an integrated graphics card. We actually put in a pretty low-end NVIDIA card in here. It has a gigabyte of memory. It has an old power supply, but it can mine Doge. It's actually running Windows 7. It's got a Core 2 Duo processor. What we want to do is we want to turn this into what I'm calling a mixed mode computer. It's not a dedicated rig for mining coins, but it's something that we can mine coins with when we're not using and then switch back to mixed use or web use or work use when we need it. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do when we consider how we're going to upgrade this is we want to consider how much power we have to work with. One of the things that people forget to do when they upgrade their computers is to check the basic components, including this. This is the power supply. This is the thing that provides power to all the components in the computer. The problem is, if we're going to be upgrading the graphics card, we have to account for that. This was a 200-watt power supply. It was just fine when it was running just the motherboard and a low-end video card and a hard drive. But if I put in a video card that in itself runs 200 watts, it's going to blow the power supply, and that's bad. Replacing the power supply is really simple. There's 4 screws in the back here. I removed those 4 screws, pull out the old power supply, and I've put in one here that's 500 watts. And then I just rewire everything. And rewiring a computer is actually really simple. The plugs pretty much only fit into one place. This is a PCI 6 card that will allow me to give supplemental power to my video card adapters, thereby sparing me from having to pull all that power off my motherboard. Now, that's one thing, the power supply. So we need to make sure we have the basic foundation. But there are a few other components I want you to consider. The first is this. This is system memory. Now, there's going to be people out there who say, wait, why am I upgrading system memory? I mean, if I'm going to be mining with a GPU, I don't really need system memory. It's going to be using the memory inside the graphics card. Well, the reason why I want to upgrade my system memory is because, again, I'm creating a mixed mode miner. Yes, most of the Dogecoin mining is going to happen in the GPU, but I want to be able to use this computer even when I am mining. And I can't do that if my memory is subpar. In this case, I've picked memory from Kingston. The reason why I use Kingston Memory, well, I explained this in the episode about SSDs, is for reliability. I've never had a problem with the Kingston module, and I really don't want to do that, start having problems just because I upgraded for Dogecoin mining. This memory was used to upgrade this machine back here to 12 gigabytes, which is, unfortunately, that's the limit of this. This is an older Gateway FX box. Memory is one thing. This is the other. You're going to need SSDs. So again, people are going to say, why do I need an SSD? If I'm Dogecoin mining, if I'm GPU mining, I'm not going to be really using the resources of the computer other than that video card. I give the same answer. The reason why you want to upgrade your SSD is because you want the computer to be snappy for you even when you're doing mixed mode mining, when you're having mining going on in the background, while you're surfing, while you're emailing, while you're doing your video editing, whatever it might be. Again, I choose the Kingston SSDs. And you can look at our episode, I believe it's episode 65 on SSDs, to find out why I like Kingston so much. But in terms of reliability, I found nothing to be better. And in terms of speed, their KC300 series is, well, it's tops. Now, what I've done to this machine is I've gone ahead and upgraded the parts. The hard drive is going to be replaced with this SSD. The memory has been upgraded into this box to 4 gigabytes, which is as high as it can go. And I've upgraded the power supply to 500 watts. So here's the rub. I know there are people out there, and I'm talking about you, Janisku7, who are religious about NVIDIA cards. You love your NVIDIA cards. And to be perfectly frank, I like myself some NVIDIA cards too because, well, they're really good for gaming. Here's the rub. Dollar for dollar, watt for watt, NVIDIA cards are nowhere near ATI cards for script-based mining. There's something about the architecture. There's something about the way that AMD/ATI have designed their video cards that just make them so much faster when you're mining Doge. I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. Now, this is an NVIDIA card, but it's pretty much what all modern cards are going to look like. You're going to want something that has fans, lots of fans. And you're also going to want a card that has some sort of heat transferred pipe because we're going to be running these things at 100%. They're going to be cranking. You're going to be going up into 80, 90 degrees centigrade. You're going to want a lot of cooling. Just a heat sink and a tiny little fan that will wear out after a week is just not going to cut it. Now, the reason why we're choosing a card like this is because we want a lot of number crunching. One of my favorite resources is called the Wiki. The Litecoin Wiki, if we go there right here, it gives you a comparison of all the different GPUs that can be used for Dogecoin or Litecoin mining. I'm going to put this link into the show notes so you'll be able to find the card for yourself. It breaks down the GPU model along with what kind of kilohash rate you can expect. Now, as you go up, as you can expect, you get into much higher hash rates. For example, the card that I have in this FX is a 5850, which should get me about 341 kilohash per second. If you go even higher, you can go into, say, the 7990 series. This gets you some serious power. I've actually got 4 of these 7990s coming in, which, according to the Litecoin Wiki, should get me somewhere in the vicinity of, I don't know, 5,000 kilohash per second. That's off of 4 GPUs in one single dedicated rig. But again, that's not what we're doing. Once I've installed that video card into my machine and made sure that I've made all the necessary connections, we have to now configure the miner. Here's the thing I'm going to tell all of you cryptocurrency enthusiasts, and that is overclocking is great. Specs are great. Make sure you get good memory. Make sure you get a good SSD. Make sure that you have a nice, clean operating system. But beyond all of that, beyond even the highest end hardware, is going to be how you configure your miner. Let me show you an example. Here we have, let me turn off that CPU miner. I had that running in the background. That was probably a bad idea. Here we have the basic. If you were just to download the CG miner, which again we gave you in the downloads for last week, and I ran the default for an AMD GPU, here it is, mine with AMD GPU, it's going to give me a hash rate of about, come on, oh, wow, okay, 1.2, 3.7. Yeah, not really great. I mean, especially since I've now spent a couple $100 on upgrading my rig, that's not the results I'm looking for. But what you need to look at is what's inside this batch file. We showed you a little bit about this last week. This is the default. This shows you how the batch file runs. It's running the program. It's telling it to mine script. It's telling it where the server is. It's giving it my username and my password, which, yeah, that will work, but that's not really going to tell me exactly how is the most effective method to use my rig to mine Dogecoin. If we look at the other 2 batch files I've created, take a look at this. This is the batch file. This is the batch file I use for high power. So when I go to bed, when I walk away from my computer, this is the one that I use. Look at all the configuration. So it's the same thing. It's CG Miner. It's mining for script. It's giving it the server that I'm using. It's using, here are my credentials for username and password. But then all of these things, workside 256, vector 1, intensity 19, GPU threads. These are the individual settings that tell CG Miner what's the best way to use the GPU that you've selected. And where do you get these settings? Well, how about that? You can get it from the mining hardware comparison. If you go back to that page that we showed you before, look at the settings, and they actually tell you what are the optimal settings for the video card that you've selected. This is a huge time saver. The way that I learned how to do this before I found this wiki was I kept changing settings until I found the ones that were perfect. And unfortunately, if you change them in the wrong way, you freeze the computer. This is much better. Start with the mining hardware comparison, the Dogecoin Wiki, and go from there. Now, let me give you one quick tip, one thing that I've learned, and that is because this is a mixed mode, I want to create 2 batch files. Here's the high-powered one again. This is the one that I'm telling the computer, go ahead and take everything. You can control everything. You can have all the resources. I'm going to bed. I don't need it. But then I also have this one. This is the low-power setting. As you can see between these 2 files, I've dropped down the intensity in the low power file from 19 to 12. I've also dropped my thread concurrency from 5824 to 5800. The reason why I do that is because if I'm doing the low power setting, so in other words, I'm saying I want it to run in the background and not take over the computer completely, I need to reserve some of those resources for the regular things, watching videos, editing video, reading things on the internet. That's one of the settings that I can use to make sure that the miner isn't going to completely take over. Now, here's the cool thing. If I use the low power setting, so I've made a shortcut here on my desktop, I still have control of the computer. I can still do things. I can still bring up browsers. I can still web surf, but my hash rate's going to run around 200, 227. Again, not bad. It's a huge improvement over 12 and over 2. But if I run the high power setting, and I only want to do this once because I'm kind of going to lose control of the computer, the hash rate is going to jump as soon as it finds a blockchain here. Hold on, give it time to spool up. And now we're jumping up to 261, 300, 300 and so. This will get me all the way up to about 390 kilohash per second. Again, a huge improvement. Now, you want to have these 2 batch files on your desktop so that when you're working and you just want to have it running in the background, you can use the low power setting. But when you go to bed or when you go away to the office and you can dedicate the entire computer to Dogecoin mining, you click the high power setting and it will take over all the system resources. Now, when you do that, you'll notice, like, for example, I just double click this. See, it is really sucking up all my system resources. I can't, come on, you can do it. Yeah. So if you're going to use the high power setting, make sure that you're not doing anything for a while because it is going to monopolize every last bit of resource. Now, that is a mixed mode miner. The next time we take up Dogecoin, what I'm going to be showing you how to do is to make a dedicated miner. That means I'm not trying to share my resources with anything else. I'm not going to be using it for word processing or for email. I'm going to use it for pure, unadulterated Doge. That's next time on Know How.
But one thing I would really like to fix is my Doge wallet. I've been having some issues with that.
Oh, that's right. So are you getting that weird out of sync /DB error thing?
11 something exception.
Yeah,
I filled up space and I'm going to have to dig in, delete some files.
That's actually a good call because we've had a lot of panic tweets and emails to the Know How account because people are saying, wait a minute, did I just lose all my Doge? Well, the problem is that they switched blockchains just because there have been so many Dogecoin that have been mined. And unfortunately, some people got caught in the switch. Now, there's an easy way to fix it. I think what we could do now is maybe do a really quick segment on Doge mining, just an update for all of our Know How Dogers out there to both fix that syncing problem and maybe to keep your little video cards from blowing up. Well, hello there, you future Dogecoin billionaires. We've gotten some really good feedback on our Dogecoin-themed episodes, including some pictures of father-son teams, some really interesting rigs. But one of the things that bothered me was that in many of these pictures, I could see the temperatures on your CG Miner clients, and it wasn't a good thing. Some of you are running temperatures up in the high 80s, 90s, even 100 degrees Celsius. That's just no good. Here's an example of what happens when you exceed the thermal limits of your heat dissipation device. In other words, when you cook your video card. This came out of a machine from the brick house that was, I believe, being used to mine Doge. Now, the person who did it, we shouldn't name him. He should stay anonymous. I know it was you, Jammer B. But we could have avoided it if we had followed some simple rules for cooling off your Doge miner. The first thing has to be airflow. Just make sure that you've got enough airflow flowing through the case. And if you've got a retail bought computer, I can almost guarantee you don't, because those computers were not designed for that kind of heat, for that kind of constant use of the GPU. The easiest way to fix that is to take off the side of the case and put a supplementary fan. Some small thing. It doesn't have to be big. You could use a box fan if you wanted to go cheap, but something just to blow air over the surface. Now, you're also going to need ambient temperatures that are cool enough to actually provide cooling to the computer. You can't blow hot air back onto the computer and expect it to bring the GPU temperature down. But watch that temperature gauge in the corner of the miner, and it should tell you whether or not your cooling is being effective. You want to get that temperature down, and more importantly, you want to get that heat away from the card, away from the motherboard. The second tip I can give you is to change the intensity of your miner. If you notice that you're getting blue screens, if you notice that you wake up in the morning and your computer has rebooted because it got too hot, or if it freezes up, drop the intensity. Dropping the intensity even 5 points can drop your temperature by 10 degrees, and that makes a big difference. Now let's go on to something that I believe has a lot of people panicked, and that is if your Dogecoin wallet is unsynced, if it's giving you a warning that it's no longer synced up with the blockchain, or if it's giving you a DB error. I know that's scary because suddenly it seems as if you've lost your Dogecoin, but there's a really simple way to fix that. Let me show you how. The first thing that you have to do is to download the updated Dogecoin wallet. Now, I don't want to give you a link. Instead, I want you to go directly to the Dogecoin.com site. Get used to this, because this is a way to make sure that you don't get a client that has been tampered with. You don't want someone putting in code there that's going to send your Dogecoin to their wallet. You're going to extract this folder onto your desktop. Then you need to change the settings, and I'm assuming that you're using a Windows computer here, to allow you to see hidden folders, because we're going to have to get into one. Go to Start, Control Panel, Folder Options, then the View tab. Select Show Hidden Folders, Files, and Drives, and click OK. Your computer is now set up to allow you to see hidden folders, which we're going to do when we navigate to the folder for your Dogecoin. Now, for me, it's going to be in C, Users, Blackrobe, App Data, Roaming, Dogecoin. But for you, it's going to be whatever your username is and wherever you stored your Dogecoin folder. Now, this is really, really important. You need to back up your wallet.dat file. Copy it out of the folder. Keep it safe. Make many copies and put them into different places. This is the file that actually contains your Dogecoins. If you lose that, they're gone forever. There's no way to get them back. Once you've copied your wallet.dat file, you now delete everything out of this folder. Go ahead and just empty it out. Toss everything into the recycling bin. Now jump back into the Dogecoin wallet folder that you just downloaded and start up the client. It may take a really long time for this to sync up. It needs to download the entire new chain, which could take a few hours, and make sure that everything is synced up. Once it is finished syncing, go ahead and close the wallet. Now here's the key. Once it's been synced up, go ahead and navigate back into that Dogecoin folder, the one that we had to enable the hidden folders to find, and copy your wallet.dat file back into the folder. Go ahead and overwrite the file that's in there right now. Once you've done that, you can reopen the wallet and everything should be back to normal, except that now you're on the right chain. Hopefully those 2 quick tips can keep you cool and keep you doging. Well, hopefully no one panicked when their wallet went out of sync. I actually got a couple of tear-ridden emails saying, oh my God, we've been pouring everything into this. We just finished mining 5,000, 6,000 Doge, and we're afraid it's all gone. There are actually easier ways to do this process. There are things you could do that would speed up the blockchain resync. But the method that I just gave you is the one that has the least potential for disaster. No matter what you do, no matter what method you take to resync your wallet, just always remember that wallet.dat file is vital. That's where your Doge is. If you delete it, if you overwrite it, if you corrupt it, that Doge is gone. So protect it, keep it safe, have a backup, and Doge on.